The shotgun blast echoed across the lake like a thunderclap from hell, splintering the morning fog and sending a flock of startled loons scattering into the sky. I stood there, heart slamming against my ribs, staring at the jagged hole in the dock's weathered planks. The dock that had been my father's last tether to this world before he slipped under the icy water 10 years ago. And now Karen, my best friend since we were kids stealing smokes behind the high school gym, had just handed it over to her sleazy cousin like it was yesterday's trash, her voice dripping with that fake sweet southern drawl. "It's just wood, Ryan. Let it go." Blood pounded in my ears as I gripped the truck keys so hard the metal bit into my palm, the weight of betrayal twisting like a knife in my gut. Karen, who knew every scar on my soul, who had held me when Dad's body washed up bloated and blue. But there, on the shoreline, was Jacob, the quiet stranger with storm-gray eyes and a toolbox slung over his shoulder, watching me unravel without a word. His presence a sudden anchor in the storm I didn't know I needed. I revved the engine of my old Ford F-150, the growl cutting through the humid Michigan air like a promise of reckoning. It was one of those endless summer mornings in the Upper Peninsula, where the lakes stretched out like forgotten promises, and the pines whispered secrets to anyone dumb enough to listen. Upper life, they called it, raw, unfiltered, the kind that chews you up and spits you out stronger, or at least that's what Dad used to say before the lake claimed him. That dock wasn't just a slab of oak and pine. It was his legacy, the spot where he'd taught me to bait a hook and cast a line, where we'd fixed up the old Chris craft together, laughing over cold linencugals as the sun dipped low. Now it was collateral in Karen's petty war. She'd shown up at my cabin 2 days ago, her red Mustang kicking up gravel like she owned the damn county. Karen Hargrove, queen of Marquette's dive bars and my reluctant confidant through every botched coming out and heartbreak. We'd been thick as thieves since freshman year at Northern Michigan University, bonding over bad poetry slams and worse exes. She knew I was gay before I did, spotted it in the way I'd linger too long on the quarterback's broad shoulders during pep rallies. Hell, she was the one who dragged me to my first Pride float in Detroit, waving a rainbow flag like it was a battle standard. But friendship's a fragile thing up here, eroded by lake winds and buried grudges. "Ryan, honey," she'd cooed, perched on my sagging porch swing with a bottle of cheap Merlot dangling from her manicured fingers. "You gotta sell that eyesore. The bank's breathing down your neck, and my cousin Dale's looking for a spot to moor his bass boat. Family first, right? Family." The word landed like a sucker punch. Dale was her cousin from downstate, some trust fund asshole who'd flunked out of law school and washed up here peddling real estate scams. I'd met him once at a bonfire, beer gut straining his polo, eyes narrowing when Karen mentioned my lifestyle with that half-laugh she thought passed for tact. He wasn't family to me, but to her, blood was thicker than the ink on my foreclosure notice. I tried reasoning, voice cracking like the ice on Lake Superior in spring. "Karen, this dock, it's all I have left of him. Dad built it with his own hands. You know that." She'd rolled her eyes, that glossy lipstick smirk firmly in place. "Jesus, you're 32, not 12. Ghosts don't pay mortgages. Sign the papers." And just like that, she forged ahead, calling Dale while I sat stunned, the pen she'd shoved at me hovering like a guillotine. I didn't sign, but she did, faked my John Hancock on the quitclaim deed she'd borrowed from my desk drawer. By dawn, surveyors were hammering stakes, and Dale's crew was slapping fresh pilings into the muck, claiming my slice of shoreline as if it were manifest destiny. That's when the rage hit, hot and holy, the kind that turns a mild-mannered bait shop clerk into a one-man militia. I spent the night pacing the cabin, whiskey burning a path to my resolve, memories crashing over me like waves. Dad's calloused hands guiding mine over the sander, his gravelly laugh echoing as we christened the dock with a six-pack. And Karen, God Karen, curled up on my couch after my first breakup, whispering, "You're enough, Ryan. Just you." Lies. All of it, eroded by her ambition, her need to play savior to a family that never gave a damn about mine. The sun was barely up when I hooked the truck to the winch, chains rattling like Jacob Marley's ghosts. Jacob. I'd almost forgotten him in the haze. He was the new guy at the hardware store in town, the one with the faded tattoo of a compass rose peeking from his sleeve, who'd helped me load 2x4s last week without asking questions. Tall, lean like a willow whip, with hair the color of wet sand and eyes that held the gray of an incoming squall. We talked fishing, trout flies and walleye runs, nothing deep, but enough to make my pulse stutter in a way it hadn't since college. He wasn't from here. Ohio transplant, he said, chasing quiet after some corporate grind in Cleveland. Lakes have a way of calling you back, he'd murmured, handing me the receipt, our fingers brushing just long enough to spark. Now he was here, uninvited but somehow inevitable, pulling up in his battered Subaru as I tested the tow cable. Heard the commotion from the road, he said, leaning against the hood, toolbox at his feet. No judgment in his voice, just that steady gaze. Like he saw the fracture lines in me and wasn't scared off. Need a hand? I wanted to say no, swallow the vulnerability, handle this alone like Dad would have. But the words stuck, and instead, I nodded, tossing him a pair of work gloves. Yeah, help me rig this beast. Karen's cousin thinks he can steal my history. Time to remind him history bites back. We worked in tandem, the kind of silent rhythm that speaks louder than words. He pointed out weak spots in the dock's mooring, reinforced the hitch with a come along, his forearms flexing under the morning light. Sweat beaded on his brow, and when our shoulders bumped, neither of us pulled away. It was the first real touch since everything went to shit. As the chains locked in, he paused, wiping his hands on his jeans. This about more than wood, isn't it? I met his eyes, the lake mirroring the turmoil in my chest. Everything, I whispered. And in that moment, with the engine idling and betrayal's shadow long across the water, I felt seen. Not as the gay kid from the wrong side of the tracks, not as the guy dodging pink slips and pink slips of another kind, but as Ryan. Whole. Fractured, but whole. The plan was simple. Wait for Dale to show all swagger and self-importance, then fire up the truck and drag the whole sorry structure, dock pilings and all, right out into the shallows. Let him flail. Let the county see what happens when you mess with a Youper's roots. Jacob didn't question it. He just climbed into the cab beside me, the cab smelling of pine tar and possibility. Let's make it priceless, he said, a ghost of a smile cracking his stoic facade. As we idled on the access road, fog curling like cigarette smoke, I spotted Dale's F-350 lumbering down the drive, trailer in tow, base boat gleaming like a trophy. He parked cocky, hollering at his buddy to unload the cooler. Karen's text buzzed in, he's thrilled. Told you it'd work out. Work out, right? I shifted into gear, heart a war drum. This wasn't just revenge. It was reclamation. For Dad. For me. And maybe, just maybe, for whatever this spark with Jacob was promising in the dawn's fragile light. The chains went taut with a groan, the dock shuddering like it remembered better days. Dale froze mid-stride, beer can halfway to his lips, as the pilings gave way with a wet suck. What the foo? His bellow cut off as the structure lurched, dragging him backward onto the splintered edge. Jacob let out a low chuckle, the sound warm against the chaos, and I couldn't help but grin, feral and free. But as the lake swallowed the edges, pulling Dale into a frantic scramble, I glimpsed Karen's Mustang cresting the hill, too late, always too late. And in the rearview, Jacob's hand on my knee, steady as the shore we were leaving behind. The dock didn't go down easy. It fought like a cornered wolverine, pilings clawing at the mud with stubborn creaks, the whole apparatus tilting at a drunken angle as my truck's tires spun gravel into a rooster tail. Dale was flailing now, arms windmilling like a cartoon character on ice, his designer waders slipping on the slick planks. Hargrove, get your ass over here, he roared, voice cracking into something almost human. Panic, raw and unfiltered. His buddy, some red-faced lackey named Todd, dropped the cooler and bolted for the truck. But Jacob was faster, slamming the door shut and locking it with a decisive click. Stay put, Jacob murmured, his breath hot against my ear, close enough that I caught the faint scent of sandalwood soap and lake brine. It grounded me, that proximity, turning the adrenaline from poison to power. I gunned the engine harder, the winch whining in protest, and the dock gave one final heave before breaking free, sliding across the shallows like a barge on bad dreams. Water sloshed over the edges, soaking Dale to the waist, his curses bubbling into froth. From the hill, Karen's brakes squealed, her door flying open before the car even stopped. She stumbled down the embankment in heels that sank like accusations, face a mask of fury and confusion. "Ryan, what in God's name are you doing?" Her voice sliced through the din, that polished edge fraying at the seams. She looked smaller somehow, stripped of her armor. The Merlot confidence, the easy lies. Just Karen, the girl who'd once braided wildflowers into my hair during a rain-soaked camping trip, promising we'd conquer the world. I killed the engine, the sudden silence amplifying the lap of waves against the undermined shore. Dale was knee-deep now, hauling himself onto the listing dock, his polo plastered transparent against his paunch. "You crazy son of a bitch! That's assault. I'll have you arrested." Spittle flew from his lips, but his eyes darted to the water, to the dark shapes beneath. Memories of drownings past, perhaps, or just the primal fear of what the lake hides. Jacob slid out first, calm as a warden, offering a hand to steady the truck as if this were routine maintenance. "Easy there," he said to no one in particular, but his gaze locked on mine through the open window, a nod subtle saying we got this. I climbed down, boots squelching in the muck, and faced Karen across the wreckage. Up close, her makeup was smudged, mascara tracks like war paint from a battle she hadn't seen coming. "You forged the deed, Carr?" I said, voice low, the words tasting like ash. "My doc. Dad's doc. You knew what it meant." The air hung heavy between us, thick with unspoken summers. Bonfires where she'd tease me about crushes on the lifeguard. Winters where she'd crash on my floor after her own string of bad men. Both of us nursing wounds in the glow of a space heater. We'd been each other's safe harbor, or so I thought. Turns out, harbors can be sold off too. She crossed her arms, chin lifting in that defiant tilt I'd always admired. "I did it for you, Ryan. You're drowning in debt, chasing ghosts." Dale offered triple market value, enough to fix the cabin, start fresh. "You think I wanted to hurt you?" Her eyes flickered to Jacob, narrowing. "Who's this? Your latest distraction." The jab landed, sharp as a hook barb. Distraction. That's what she'd called every guy I dared to love. Mike the barista, too flighty. Alex the teacher, too married. She'd laugh it off, but it always left a bruise. Her concern, a velvet glove over an iron fist. Jacob didn't flinch. He just stepped closer, shoulder brushing mine. A silent claim that made my chest ache with something dangerously close to hope. "It's not about the money," I shot back, the lake wind whipping my words. "It's about trust. You took that from me. From us." The words slipped out, encompassing more than just the two of us. The family we'd built from scraps, the late-night confessions under star-pricked skies. Dad had been gone a decade. Mom long since remarried and moved to Florida, chasing sunsets and stability. Karen had filled the void, or I'd let her think she did. Big mistake. Dale clambered ashore then, dripping and defeated, grabbing Todd's arm for support. "Call the cops, you idiot. This queer bastard tried to kill me." The slur hung there, ugly and American as apple pie prejudice. The kind that simmers quiet in small towns until poked. Jacob tensed beside me, his jaw a hard line, but I waved him off. Seen worse, heard worse, from football jocks and church ladies alike. Still, it stung, a reminder that up here, love like mine was tolerated at best, whispered about at worst. Karen whirled on Dale. "Shut your mouth, cousin. This is between me and Ryan." But the damage was done. Her defense felt half-hearted, laced with the same old poison. She turned back to me, softer now, reaching out a hand. Please, let's talk this out. Over coffee at the Brood Awakening, like old times." Old times. The phrase conjured ghosts. Her dragging me to drag shows in Escanaba, me covering her bar tabs after another heartbreak. But those memories soured now, tainted by the deed in her purse, the casual erasure of my pain. I shook my head, stepping back into Jacob's space, his warmth a bulwark. No more old times, Karen. You chose blood over heart. Live with it. As sirens wailed in the distance, someone's nosy neighbor dialing 911, no doubt. I felt the weight lift, just a fraction. The dock bobbed forlornly in the shallows, half submerged, a metaphor if ever there was one. Jacob's fingers grazed my elbow, a question in the touch. You okay? Not yet, I admitted, voice rough. But getting there. We watched as Karen deflated, sinking onto a driftwood log, her empire of good intentions crumbling around her. Dale blustered on, but even he looked small, a bully defanged. The cops arrived in a whirl of lights. Sheriff Landry, paunchy and paternal, who knew my dad from VFW poker nights. He took statements with a sigh, eyeing the chaos like a man who'd seen too many lakefront feuds. Ryan, son, this here's destruction of property. But he glanced at the forged deed Karen reluctantly produced, her face crumpling. Looks like we got us a civil matter too. Stand down, all y'alls. By noon, the dock was hauled back. Provisional, pending lawyers, and Dale slunk off with threats of lawsuits that rang hollow. Karen lingered, hovering like a moth at dusk. I'm sorry, she whispered finally, eyes glassy. I thought I was helping. Help's not stealing, I replied, the words a quiet exorcism. She nodded, defeated, and drove away in a spray of gravel, leaving echoes. Jacob and I spent the afternoon salvaging what we could. Nailing down loose boards, patching holes with epoxy that smelled of fresh starts. His hands were steady, calloused from God knows what life before this, and every brush of skin sent a current through me, electric and terrifying. Why'd you stick around? I asked as we worked, the sun climbing high. He paused, hammer mid-swing, gray eyes searching mine. Saw a guy fighting for something real. Reminded me of me once. There was a story there, layered like the rings in the pine we cut. Losses, maybe, or loves left behind. I didn't press. Some silences are sacred. As dusk painted the lake in bruised purples, we sat on the repaired edge, feet dangling, beers cracked open in Dad's honor. The water lapped gentle now, forgiving. To priceless reactions, Jacob toasted, clinking bottles, his knee pressing mine deliberate. I laughed, the sound foreign but welcome. And to docks that won't stay sunk. But beneath the banter, something stirred. Tenderness, tentative, blooming in the ruins. Betrayal had cracked me open. But here, with this stranger who felt like home, I glimpsed healing. Not easy, not American dream tidy, but real, human. That night, as loons called into the dark, I didn't dream of ghosts. Just gray eyes and a hand in mine, pulling me toward shore. Weeks blurred into that peculiar Yooper autumn, where leaves turned fire orange overnight and the air carried the crisp bite of coming snow. The cabin felt less like a tomb now, more like a workshop. Jacob showing up most days with coffee and blueprints, his Subaru a fixture in the drive. We'd turned the dock's near demise into a project, reinforcing the pilings with concrete footings, adding a bench carved from reclaimed walnut, even stringing solar lights that glowed like fireflies against the night. It wasn't just repair. It was resurrection, each nail a defiance of loss. Karen faded to the periphery. Sporadic texts laced with apologies. A care package of my favorite pasties from the bakery in town that I left unopened on the counter. Forgiveness wasn't off the table, but trust? That was a bridge burned, ashes scattered on the wind. I'd see her around Marquette, arm in arm with some new Mark, her laugh too loud, her eyes avoiding mine. Dale had lawyered up downstate, but his threats dissolved into nothing when the forgery surfaced. Karen paid the bank's penalties quietly, a hush money for her hubris. Jacob, though, he was the variable I hadn't calculated. Ohio boy through and through, with a soft spot for Motown records and Friday night fish fries. Turns out, he'd left Cleveland after a bad split. His ex, a high-powered ad guy named Theo, who'd traded their loft for a promotion and a younger model, woke up one morning to an empty closet and a post-it. Jacob confessed one evening, as we grilled walleye over hickory coals, the lake a mirror for the stars. Said he needed space to grow. Last I heard, he was growing a beard in Brooklyn. I nodded, poking at the fire, embers mirroring the spark in my chest. Space. Classic. Mine was a ghoster, poof, gone after I mentioned bringing him to meet the folks. Dad had passed by then, but Mom, she'd have grilled him over pot roast, probing for good bones. Her euphemism for not being an asshole. Jacob's laugh was low, rumbling, chasing the chill. Your mom's got taste. But hey, it's build character. Character. We were building that too, layer by layer. Mornings started with runs along the shoreline, pounding out the kinks in body and soul, his stride matching mine effortless. Afternoons in the bait shop, where I'd sling minnows to tourists and he'd fix the leaky roof, trading stories that peeled back our skins. He spoke of foster homes in Toledo, a compass tattoo inked at 18 as a vow to navigate his own stars. I shared Dad's fishing yarns, the way he'd hum Wagon Wheel off-key while tying leaders, how the lake took him on a squall in 15, leaving me with a toolbox and a hole that echoed. There was no rush to labels, no fumbling kisses in the cab or whispered I love yous by firelight. It was better this way, slow burn like venison chili, letting affection root deep. But the pull was there, magnetic, in the way his gaze lingered over my laugh lines, or how he'd hum along to my old Springsteen cassettes, voice gravelly and true. American romance, unpolished. Two guys mending what's broken, one splinter at a time. Then came the storm, the real one, not the metaphorical kind. Late October, Lake Superior whipped into a frenzy, whitecaps marching like an invading army. I was closing the shop when the sky cracked open, rain sheeting horizontal, wind howling through the eaves like a banshee. Jacob texted, "Cabin secure? Headed your way." I replied, "Thumbs up," but doubt gnawed. The dock, our phoenix, lashed but untested against Superior's wrath. By midnight, the gale was biblical, trees bowing like supplicants, waves crashing over the bulkhead in thunderous applause. I paced the porch, flashlight cutting swaths through the black, when headlights pierced the torrent. Jacob's Subaru hydroplaning to a stop. He burst out, soaked in seconds, duffel in hand. "Evac plans shot," he yelled over the roar, grinning mad. "Riding it out with you." We barricaded inside, windows rattling like dice in a cup, sharing a pot of chili by lantern light. The power flickered out early, leaving us to candle glow and conversation's warmth. "Ever think about leaving?" he asked, cross-legged on the rug, shadows dancing across his face. "This place, it holds you tight." I sipped my mug, steam curling like secrets. Thought about it. After Dad. After everything. But the lake. It's in my blood. Stubborn as sin. My eyes traced the line of his jaw, the vulnerability in his slouch. "What about you?" Ohio calling back. He set his bowl down, deliberate. "Nah. Cleveland's noise. This." His hand gestured wide. "The cabin's creak. The storm's symphony. This feels like breathing." Then, quieter. "You feel like breathing." The air thickened, charged as the lightning outside. I leaned in, heart a staccato beat, and our lips met. Tentative at first, then fierce, tasting of salt and storm and long-denied want. It wasn't fireworks. It was hearth fire, steady and consuming. His hands framing my face like I was fragile, precious. We broke apart gasping, foreheads pressed, the world narrowing to this, us, against the gale. But gales pass and morning brought reckoning. The dock held, battered, but standing, pilings gouged but unyielding. We surveyed the damage over coffee, shoulders touching, the kiss a silent pact between us. "We make a hell of a team," Jacob said, slinging an arm around me. "Yeah," I agreed, leaning into it. "Priceless, even." Word spread, as it does in towns this small. The dock that wouldn't die, the two guys who'd tamed the tempest. Karen showed up that afternoon, unannounced, bearing donuts and defeat. "Heard about the blow," she said, hovering in the doorway, rain-damp hair framing guilty eyes. Looks like you two pulled off a miracle. Jacob excused himself to the shed, giving us space, his absence a courtesy that spoke volumes. I waved her to the table, the air awkward as wet socks. Miracles take work, Car, and trust. She nodded, twisting a napkin to shreds. I know. Dale's out of the picture. Kicked him to the curb after the mess. And I've been seeing someone, a woman, actually. Therapy's kicking my ass, making me face how I bulldoze for love. Her laugh was brittle. Turns out, I'm the ghost haunting myself. Vulnerability from Karen, rare as a warm winter. I softened, just a notch. We all are. But you don't get to haunt mine anymore. Not like that. Understood. She stood hugging me quick. Brief, bone crush, but real. Take care of that one out there. He looks at you like you're the damn horizon. She left and Jacob emerged, toolbox in tow. Truce. Working on it? I said, pulling him close. The kiss this time was daylight bold, sun-warmed and sure. But peace is fleeting in these parts. November brought mail. A letter from Theo, Jacob's ex, forwarded from Ohio. Miss you. Made a mistake. Come home. Jacob stared at it white-knuckled, crumpling it like bad news. Old habits, he muttered. The crack was subtle. A shadow in his laugh, a hesitation in his touch. Betrayal's echo, mine from Karen, his from before. I saw it coming, the storm within, but love's blind spots are vast as superior. Thanksgiving loomed like a family obligation no one wanted. The kind where aunts pinch cheeks and uncles sling passive-aggressive jabs over turkey. Mom called from her condo in Sarasota, voice tinny through the static. Bring that nice boy you mentioned, Ryan, the one with the toolbox. We'll set an extra leaf in the table. Nice boy. Jacob reduced to folklore, but her warmth thawed something in me. The approval I'd chased since coming out at 17, her initial tears drying into fierce hugs. We drove downstate instead, skipping the holiday fray for a quiet cabin feast. Wild turkey I'd bagged, legally, with tags, cranberry relish from the Upper Market, and pie baked from apples we'd picked in a crisp orchard detour. The road unspooled under gray skies, FM radio crooning Dylan, Jacob's hand laced in mine over the console. A casual intimacy that still sent butterflies rioting. Your mom's gonna love me, he teased, thumb tracing circles on my knuckle. I'll charm her with bad dad jokes. She's already half gone, I admitted. Says you're practical, which from her is high praise. Practical. That's what we'd become. Dates at the drive-in showing grainy westerns. Hikes to Miners Falls where he'd sketched the Cascades in a battered notebook. Evenings with takeout perch and true confessions. Sex was part of it. Tender, exploratory, in the king bed with sheets tangled like our limbs. But it was the afterglow talks that bound us, dissecting dreams over dawn coffee. Theo's letter lingered, though, a specter at the feast. Jacob burned it in the fire pit that night, flames devouring the elegant script, but embers of doubt smoldered. He always knew how to twist the knife, Jacob said, poking the ashes. Promised forever, then ghosted when it got real. Money, status, that's his gravity. I pulled him back inside, away from the chill. You're not a post-it, Jake. You're everything. The words hung earnest, vulnerable, and he kissed me slow, sealing the vow. But vows are paper-thin against tempests. December dusted the pines in sugar, and with it came the call. Karen, voice shattered over the line. It's bad. Graham's place, flooded from the nor'easter. Everything's gone. Her grandmother's farmhouse, the one we'd raided for blackberry cobbler as kids, now a sopping ruin on the bayou edge. I can't. I don't know who else. Instinct warred with wisdom. Forgive and forget, or guard the scars. Jacob, sensing the pull, squeezed my shoulder. Go. Help her. That's you. Heart bigger than the hurt. So I did, driving through sleet to the old homestead, where Karen waited on the sagging porch, mascara rivers on her cheeks. The place was a wreck. Water lapping at baseboards, heirlooms bobbing like drowned sailors. We waded in, pumping sump and salvaging what we could. Graham's quilt, frayed but fierce. Photo albums warped but whispering stories. Hours blurred, mud-caked and silent, until exhaustion cracked her open. I pushed you away because I was scared, she confessed, wringing out a towel by flashlight, of losing you to some guy who'd whisk you off to the city. Selfish, stupid. You were my brother, Still are. The words mended a thread, not the whole cloth. Brothers don't forge deeds, I said gently, but they show up for floods. We hugged then, wet and weary, the lake outside murmuring absolution. Back home, Jacob greeted me with hot toddies and a roaring fire. No questions, just presence. How's the battlefield? He asked, toweling my hair. Won some ground, I murmured, sinking into him. That night, lovemaking was reclamation. Fierce, affirming, bodies mapping forgiveness. But betrayal's shadow lengthened. Mid-month, Jacob's phone buzzed insistent. Theo again. This time voicemails pleading. We were good together. One drink for old times. Jacob deleted them, but I saw the flinch, the old pull. He's persistent, he admitted over breakfast, eyes on his eggs. Like a bad rash. Tell him to fuck off, I said, half joking, but the unease rooted. Trust, fragile as lake ice. Christmas Eve brought snow globe magic. The town square aglow with lights, carolers belting, "Oh Holy Night" off-key. We wandered the fest, mittens linked, sipping cocoa from thermoses. At the bonfire, locals nodded, old-timers with knowing winks, kids oblivious. It felt normal, profoundly so, this quiet queer life woven into the fabric. Then, the gift. Jacob pressing a small box into my palm, wrapped in butcher paper. Inside, a pocket knife, Dad's design, etched with a trout fly, the blade oiled keen. Found the pattern in your stories, he said, shy. Figured you'd need it for the next storm. Tears pricked. I kissed him there, public and proud, cheers erupting from the crowd. My gift. A leather-bound journal, pages blank for his sketches, earned a grin that lit the night. But storms brew unseen. New Year's we hosted a small bash. Neighbors, a keg of homebrew, fireworks over the lake. Karen came, tentative, bearing pie and peace. Toasts rang, to new docks, new loves. And as midnight chimed, Jacob pulled me close, whispering, "This year's ours. Ours." Until it wasn't. January's bite brought the call. Theo, in town, just passing through. Jacob met him at the diner. Closure, he said, returning hollow-eyed, smelling of coffee and regret. He wants back in. Says he gets it now. The knife twisted, not mine, but ours. And you? I asked, voice steel. I said no, but the doubt lingered, a crack in the ice. Climax brewed slow, then sudden. Valentine's, a card from Theo in Jacob's mail, forwarded sly. Remember Paris? We can have that again. Paris, their trip, the one he'd described in glowing strokes. Jacob crumpled it, but the damage seeped. That night, fight erupted, words like shrapnel. You're pulling away, I accused, heart fracturing. Letting him in. It's not, he started, but faltered. I'm scared, of this being real, of losing it. Scared. The word echoed Karen's, Dad's unspoken fears. Then fight for it, I pleaded. But he left for the couch, silence a chasm. Dawn brought confession. I called him, told him to stay gone. Tears tracked his face. But I need time, to believe I'm enough. Time. Love's cruelest demand. I nodded, gutted. Take it, but don't take forever. He stayed, but the rift widened, subtle drifts like tectonic plates. Spring thawed the lake, but not us. Karen noticed over coffee. Don't let fear win, That's what sank your dad. Wisdom from the betrayer. I confronted Jacob by the dock, now sturdy symbol. Is this us? Or are you towing away? He looked broken, beautiful. I love you. But Theo, he was safe, predictable. You're the storm. Storm. Priceless, perhaps, but devastating. April's thaw was treacherous. Ice flows calving into the lake with groans like dying beasts. the world shifting underfoot. The bait shop buzzed with opener crowds, anglers hungry for smelt runs. But my days dragged, shadowed by the unspoken between Jacob and me. We coexisted in careful choreography. Shared meals with stilted talk of weather, nights in separate beds, his sketches piling up untouched. Love doesn't die clean. It festers, a slow poison of what-ifs and maybes. Karen became unlikely ally, dropping by with lunch and listening ears. Hearts are docks, rebuilt to weather squalls, but need mending when they list. Her own life steadied. The woman from therapy, a quiet librarian named Ellie, who'd moved in, their porch swing creaking with new rhythm. Betrayal taught me boundaries, she said one rainy afternoon, as we patched shop awnings. You deserve that too. Boundaries. I set them gentle. Stay if you want, Jake, but show up whole. He nodded, eyes haunted, and threw into work, volunteering at the community center, teaching woodworking to at-risk kids, his compass tattoo a beacon for their lost directions. I saw him thrive, that quiet fire reigniting, but distance yawned. May bloomed riotous, lilacs perfuming the air, and with it, opportunity. An offer from the county parks, head ranger position, overseeing shoreline preserves. Your doc's a model, the director said, touring our handiwork. Passion like that? We need it. It meant stability, a salary to outpace the bank's shadow, roots deeper than resentment. I told Jacob over diner pie, his fork pausing mid-bite. Proud of you, he said, genuine, but his smile didn't reach. Later, alone, he admitted, makes me think of Theo's offers. Fancy titles, empty promises. I want this for us, but, the word hung, a hook. I'm applying for that carpentry gig in Houghton. 6 months, trial basis. Space to figure my shit. Space. Echo of post-its, of ghosts. Heart splintering, I nodded. Figure it. But know the doc's here. Always. He left in June. Subaru loaded with tools and half my soul. Hugs lingering too long at the send-off. This isn't goodbye, he murmured, lips brushing my temple. Just a cast to deeper water. Deeper water. Superior's depths swallow whole ships. Summer stretched endless without him. Tourists chattering, lakes sparkling cruel, the dock mocking with its solitude. Karen dragged me to Pride in Marquette, a small affair with floats and flags, her arm linked in mine. Look alive, brother, she teased, but her eyes held worry. I danced anyway, sweat slick under string lights, letting bass thump out the ache. A guy approached, cute, earnest, a teacher from Green Bay, but his touch felt foreign, a pale echo. I excused myself early, driving home to the empty cabin, where Jacob's scent clung faint to the pillows. Letters came. His scrawled on notebook margins, tales of Houghton builds, shingling barns, framing gazebos, laced with longing. Miss your laugh in the mornings. Miss us. Mine replied honest. Doc's lonely without your hammer. Come back when you're sure. Theo resurfaced in whispers. Mutual friends texting warnings. He's sniffing around Houghton. Jacob denied meetings, but doubt is a weed, choking trust. August heat wave broke with thunder, and so did we. Phone call crackling like the storm. He showed up at the site, Jacob confessed, voice strained. Lunch. Closure, he said. Closure. I echoed, bitter. That's what Karen called the deed. Silence stretched, electric. It's not the same, isn't it? Rage boiled over, hot as the betrayal I'd nursed. You tow me along, then drag anchors from the past. I'm done being the shore you crash on. Rye. No. Go be safe. Predictable. Click. The line died, mirroring the hollow in my chest. Fall stripped the trees bare, mirroring my bones. Karen found me at the dock one dusk, rod idle in hand. You okay? No. Tears came unbidden, salt mingling with lake spray. Loved him. Thought it was real. It was, she said fierce, hugging tight. But love's not a dock. It's the boat. Sometimes you gotta sail solo to appreciate the harbor. humanistic wisdom from the unlikely sage. I leaned on her, on Ellie, on the kids at the community center where I volunteered now, teaching knots and stories. Mom visited, bearing key lime pie and lectures. That boy's a keeper, Ryan. Don't let pride sink you. Pride. Mine or his. November snows buried the pain soft, and with it, resolve. Sell the cabin? No, pass it on to the Parks Trust, a preserve in Dad's name. Legacy, the director called it. I called it letting go. December circled back, anniversary of the tow. Priceless chaos turned poignant. Jacob's truck crunched gravel one eve, unannounced. Him standing snow-dusted, eyes storm-clear. I quit the job, he said, no preamble. Theo cornered me again, begging, desperate. Saw him clear. Small man, smaller heart. What we had, that's the real. Heart hammer still. And you? Sure now. He stepped close, breath clouding. Surer than the lake's deep. I love you, Ryan. Storm and all. Kiss in the snowfall, fierce, redemptive, flakes melting on skin. We mended slow. Talks by fire, touches tentative then bold, rebuilding trust plank by plank. But climax crests again. New year, Theo's final gambit. A confrontation at the shop, wild-eyed, reeking of bourbon. You think you can steal him? Some backwoods fairy? Jacob, there for inventory, stepped forward calm. We're done, Theo. Go home. He lunged, fist wild, but I blocked, shoving him back. Out. Now. Cops hauled him, drunk and disorderly, the town buzzing. In the aftermath, Jacob held me, shaking. Scared me. Seeing you hurt. Won't happen, I vowed. We're the storm now. Together. Spring 2026 bloomed healed. Doc eternal. Love resilient. Karen toasted at our quiet commitment cookout. To priceless reactions and second chances. Human, messy, American true. The years folded like accordions after that. Expansive, then intimate, the rhythm of lake life pulling us through. By summer 27, the Ryan Dad Preserve was official. Ribbon cutting with Mom beaming, locals toasting with linencugals. The dock a centerpiece etched with plaque. For those who anchor deep, Jacob's carving, his gift renewed. Karen and Ellie adopted a rescue mutt, named it Harbor, nod to amends, and we'd four-wheel to their place for brats and bonfires, stories looping like lures. Challenges came, as they do. My knee tweak from a ranger hike, Jacob's freelance dry spells when build stalled in recessions. We'd argue. Petty over dishes, profound over futures, but always circle back, hands finding wastes, apologies whispered in the dark. Love matured, less fireworks, more hearth. Anniversaries with craft brews and casts at dawn. Vacations to the Keys where Mom grilled Jacob on retirement plans. Her approval sealed with a tackle box of lures. Theo faded to footnote. A restraining order, then silence, his Brooklyn glow dimmed by tabloid scandals. Jacob grieved the illusion once, over whiskey by the fire. He taught me what I didn't want. You? What I can't live without. Betrayal's scar tissue toughened us. Karen's too. She'd started a blog, Youper Truths, spilling on family feuds and forgiveness. Her words raw bomb for online wanderers. Wrote you in, anonymized. She confessed one harvest moon. Passing a joint, legal now, glory hallelujah. The doc chapter? Hit a nerve. Comments pour in. Folks seeing their own Karens. I laughed, passing it back. Priceless therapy. Humanity's arc bent gentle. Pride floats bigger, town queers bolder. A kid from the center coming out to cheers at our shop counter. Jacob mentored him. Ties flies, share sketches. Passing the compass forward. Climax revisited in 29. A nor'easter twin, fiercer, flooding the preserve. We evacuated high, watching from the cabin as waves gnawed the shore. The dock a defiant silhouette. Hold, Jacob prayed, arm around me, and dawn revealed it standing, piling scarred but sovereign. Like us, he murmured. Rebuild was communal. Neighbors hauling timber, kids painting benches, Karen wielding hammer like atonement. In the sweat and sawdust, bonds reforged, community as chorus to our duet. By 32, gray threaded our temples, lines etched from laughs more than loss. We married quiet, courthouse vows. Mom officiating via Zoom from her assisted spot. Karen best woman with a speech that slayed. From forged deeds to forever, y'all earned this. The doc hosted the reception. String lights twinkling, walleye roasting, toasts to storms weathered. As dusk fell, Jacob pulled me aside, ring glinting. Still priceless. Always, I said, kissing him salt-sweet. Aging brought aches. My hip protesting long stands, his hands cramping on chisels. But joys amplified. Nephew from Ellie's sister, toddling the planks. Preserve expansions, trails named for Dad. Betrayals? Distant echoes, lessons in grace. One autumn eve, years on, we sat the bench. Jacob sketching the sunset, me baiting a final line. Regrets? He asked, pencil pausing. None, I lied soft, then truth. Maybe not fighting harder for you sooner. He set the pad down, hand over mine. We fought plenty. Won. The lakeside agreement, waves lapping eternal. Love, humanistic core. Not flawless fairy tale, but flawed odyssey. Betrayals bridged, emotions endured, romance rooted in the muck of real. As stars pricked the velvet sky, loons called, echo of that shotgun morning. Hooks long sunk, we towed the wreckage, emerged buoyant. Priceless, indeed. And in the quiet, with Jacob's head on my shoulder, I cast the line. Not for fish, but for peace. It landed true.